Hi everyone, Calum from FSElite here. Thank you for tuning in to listen to the interview I had with JetStream Radio. Now, when we recorded this, some information has since changed, so I wanted to just be completely transparent and open with you from the get-go. So we have reached our pre-order target for the FSElite magazine, and we are accepting orders, and we know that we will be printing them. In fact, they are being printed as we speak right now. Also, the prices that are mentioned in this interview were from the pre-order stage, and as we said during the pre-order stage, the prices would then go up. So now you can pick up the magazine for £6.49, $10.95 if you're in the US, Canada, or anywhere else in the world, and if you're in Europe, then it is €9.99. All of those prices are plus shipping. Anyway, with all of that information out of the way, please sit back, relax, and enjoy my interview with the wonderful guys at JetStream Radio.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Ioan here from your 5-Star Lunch Club, and today I have an awesome guest here with me, Calum from FSElite. Calum, how are you?
Doing really good. How are you doing?
That is wonderful. I'm doing really well myself. I mean, I'm excited. Today is the 4th birthday of FSElite, and I'm here sitting with you, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been 4 years since our humble little blog started, and now we're kind of where we are today and talking about physical things. And yeah, man, it's crazy how much we've changed over the last 4 years, but super excited nonetheless.
Right, and we all know FSElite is a major player in the flight sim news business. We all love them. We all look at them probably daily. If you guys are invested in the flight sim community as much as me and Calum are, you probably are looking at FSElite daily for the news as they deliver quickly and efficiently to you every day with what's coming, what's already out, reviews, and a lot of nice stuff.
Yeah, we do try our best. Daily is definitely the word for it. I check it probably like 20 times a day just to make sure everything's all smoothly running and stuff. But yeah, no, super proud of it and pleased that we're still kind of around helping out the community in all sorts of different ways.
Right. And now, since they're growing so much, FSElite came up with a brand new idea to create a magazine that can be shipped out to you, and you can not only look at a website on your computer, but you can have a tangible, real-life piece of FSElite merchandise, I would say.
I honestly don't know why we've done this to ourselves. It's such a colossal amount of work. But the end result is something we're really proud of at the end of the day. But yeah, we kind of wanted, I mean, we love the work that we do digitally on online and stuff, but we just wanted something to hold and to kind of show our friends in. I mean, I talk a little bit about kind of the conception of the magazine and stuff a little bit later, I'm sure. But yeah, we just wanted something to hold and something to put on our walls and stuff just so we can show and be more proud of it than necessarily like just digital code and words and stuff online.
Right, and that's pretty exciting because personally myself, I don't do too well with reading on the computer because my eyes get tired. So having a physical piece of paper to read off of, like even if it's a newspaper, magazine, whatever, it helps me more and I read it easier. So I think for many it might be that way as well, and having the physical magazine, it might be an advantage to them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's kind of weird. I feel like we're almost taking a step back. I mean, most of the world is going digital these days and kind of breaking free from physical stuff, and yet we're doing almost the polar opposite and expanding a little bit more into the physical side of things. But I think we're doing something a little bit differently compared to, you know, your traditional magazine and kind of the other print material out there for similar aviation and flight simulation related content.
Right, and having a magazine is also it has another pro, and that is if your internet goes out or you might not have active running internet, you might be able to profit from what FSElite has to offer you in their daily news, or not only because the magazine has reviews as well, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So I guess for us, like the news and stuff is still primarily online. I guess one of the biggest challenges we obviously have with print is if we if a product was released today, then there'd be no point putting it in the magazine, because by the time everyone gets their hands on this, it's going to be like a month or 2 months old. So yeah, the content inside we're describing it as timeless, and we're calling it that because whether you pick it up today, tomorrow, next week, next month, the content will still be relevant to you. So the reviews are relevant because they're always going to still be that quality of a product. We've also got a whole bunch of interviews and stuff in there, which are always going to be interesting for people to read, whether that, again, like I said, be today, tomorrow, even like 2-3 months down the line. So we try to be a bit more creative with the content inside, just to mix it up, and obviously people can still get their fix of news and stuff on the website.
All right. Well, yeah, that sounds like a great deal, and I think a lot of people are excited about. And you were saying we are going to talk about the conception of the magazine and how the magazine came about. So that is actually my next question. How did the FSElite magazine come about?
Oh wow! I think it came about after a few beers, and so this was just over a year ago, just in preparation for Flight Sim Expo 2019 in Orlando, and we've obviously had booths and stuff at the shows, and we've always enjoyed engaging with the audience and stuff. But what we found at previous shows was people kept asking us, so what exactly is FSElite? And as easy as it is to say, oh, we're just a flight sim media website, we never really could show them exactly what we did. It was always, you can check it out on your phone, or we could have like a laptop or a tablet at the booth. But ultimately, we couldn't really give them something to take away and to remember us by. So as I said, a few beers later, me and a few of the other guys were talking about what can we do, what can we give them. And I think it started off with, we could just give them like a leaflet, maybe like a review on or something. And then that turned into, what about 2 reviews, 3 reviews? And then suddenly it was, hey, let's just do a magazine. So we ended up making around a 40-page, pretty decent quality magazine for Flight Sim Expo last year in Orlando. And we kind of wanted to do something a little bit different. We wanted a bit more quality to it. There was a nice shine to it. The pages were nice and thick. And we just thought this is a really cool way to give something to the community who are out there in Orlando, and they can take it away, put it in their goodie bag, read it on the plane, and get to learn a little bit more about kind of what we do. And then from there, it just escalated even further. The feedback we had from members of the community was unbelievable. The feedback we had really complimented like the quality of the print, the content, the way it was polished, and everything. It was just it just made us feel really, really good. And then we felt really motivated to try and do it again. So then we had Cosford to go to in the UK, and then that's when we made an 80-page almost brochure of content, and again, super high quality, even more higher quality paper and stuff this time, because we really went to town and learned a lot from like the first issue. And so that's kind of the story of how it started and where we are today with issue number 3.
Awesome. So yeah, that was actually my next question, was how the community responded to it. But what you said, they really loved it. And I was looking through pictures of the magazine and through different things you guys posted on media, on social media, and on the website, and it really does look high quality. But another question I had for you was, with that quality, does the pricing point stay the same, or will it ever change? Because the first physical issue you released was the Cosford one, which was 84 pages. And then issue 3 came about, and I don't know how many pages it has compared to the Cosford one, but is the pricing point going to stay the same for all of the magazines coming in the future?
So to answer the first question, this one has 84 pages as well. I think any more than that, then I would have some kind of mental breakdown, because 84 pages is enough. In terms of the price point, actually this issue is cheaper than the previous one. So because of the fact we have learned a lot from the previous 2 issues, we're able to find better distributors. And one of the biggest costs we have for issue number 2 was the shipping. So we didn't have a distributor, and I had to literally go to the post office every day to post off different magazines in. Some of the shipping rates were extortionate, talking like $5 or $6, plus then the packaging and all that stuff. So the cost of posting it was almost the same as the cost of the magazine. So what we've done in between kind of those two issues is we've worked really hard with a number of different suppliers and distributors, and actually we found just as good quality paper and print, but then we've managed to really reduce the distribution rates. And because of that, we're literally able to sell this issue way cheaper than we did last time. I think last time we sold issue 2 for $13, whereas this issue is $9.95 and then $3.95 shipping. So in comparison, it's already cheaper without the shipping from issue number 2, which isn't to say the quality is affected. It's exactly the same. It's just we've been a little bit more efficient, and because we are using the same printing company, we're able to kind of negotiate discounts and stuff like that. So we've passed all that onto the consumer, which I think is pretty cool.
Right. That is very exciting. That all the logistics that go into it, because after all, you do need a lot of planning and you do need a lot of management to pull up something like this, because it takes resources, it takes money, and without that, it's just gonna sink to the bottom. But my next question was, how often is the magazine being released? Like, is it like monthly, every 3 months, every bi-yearly?
Well, that's a good question, because the honest answer is we're not too sure ourselves yet. So the idea, as I said earlier, was we printed these magazines for like events and stuff. So the first one being Flight Sim Expo last year, and then a second one being Cosford. And the planning for this actually occurred all before COVID-19 and the cancellation of Flight Sim Expo. So we were already in the pre-production stages before, unfortunately, all those events and stuff got cancelled. And it just seemed kind of a bit of a waste to waste some of that pre-production stuff we'd done and some of the hard work my amazing team had already contributed to producing this magazine. So we kind of figured, hey, let's send it out to the community. Let's see what kind of response we get. And this is why we've opened up this pre-order system, which I'll probably talk about in a minute. And from there, we just wanted to engage with people and see, is this something of interest to people? Because obviously at events, if you're giving something away for free, then people are always going to like snap your hand off and stuff. So we couldn't really use that as a gauge for understanding whether a magazine of this caliber would be useful for the community. But so far the pre-order stuff has worked out really, really well, and we're really engaging with lots of different people and streamers and people like yourselves and stuff. And everyone seems to give the same kind of, wow, that looks really, really cool. So with all that in mind, I can't really say if we're going to do these in a kind of a rotational, like quarterly period, monthly period or whatever, because it's going to come down to the response we get from the community. But of course, we'd love to do more. It just really boils down to, how much response we're going to get from people and how many times are people going to want to keep buying it and stuff. So fingers crossed it becomes a little bit more regular and stuff, and we can do all sorts of cool stuff like offering discounts on like long-term subscriptions and things like that. But for now, we kind of take it an issue at a time, and hopefully we can get to the point where we can make it a little bit more consistent for the community.
Right. Yeah, I completely understand that, because of course you want a product to be successful, and if the community has no response to it, then why continue to put out things one by one and lose resources along the way when you're not going to get anything back from it. But another thing I wanted to ask you about is you have a target goal of 600 pre-orders that you guys want to attain. Is that like a safety margin to make sure that you can get enough back from the magazine so that you can start sending it out?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything really. So like I said earlier, the cost of distribution are pretty high anyway. It's not a cheap magazine in terms of like the print and the paper that we're using. So there is a certain level of commitment we need from people before we can even proceed. Otherwise, it's going to be hugely detrimental to the site and to us as a brand. So we needed to make sure that we had a certain number. And then also that number, I think, just reflects a good ratio of people out there who might be interested in something like this. So if we reach that number, then that gives me the confidence to take a step back and say to the team, hey, let's see if we can make this a bit more consistent, because there's clearly demand. And kind of the idea is if we reach that 600 mark, then for the next issue, it'll just keep going up and up and up, and we can engage with a lot more people. So we didn't really want to say, hey, we're going to produce a magazine and then only get like 10, 15 sales and then kind of disappoint people. And something we've always been very passionate about is being super, just being really transparent with the community. So we figured, let's tell people exactly kind of what our target is, where we're currently sitting at, and we've updated that kind of thermometer type thing on the website every day, so everybody can see exactly kind of where we're going and how close we are to that goal. And at the time of this recording, we're really close. We're over 75% of the way there. So everything we're doing over the next couple of days and weeks is just to really make sure people are aware of the magazine, and we can talk about the quality, and hopefully we can reach that 600 target. And then as soon as we hit that, then I hit the distribution button, and then all those copies then get printed and then shipped out to people all over the world who've already pre-ordered a copy, which I think is really cool.
Right. Well, yeah, and I do wish you do attain that goal, because it is very exciting for me personally. I was definitely looking into pre-ordering one as well, because it just looks like a great opportunity to have something like this. And speaking of the magazine, how and who are the creative geniuses and writers behind this magazine? Because you guys at FSElite have a 20+ member team. So who's the creative genius and writers of the magazine, and how do they choose what content goes into the magazine?
Oh man. Okay, so the creative geniuses, in all seriousness, is everybody on the team. I mean, there is no single one person who is responsible for the magazine. I mean, we all have our own little roles and things that we do. So our amazing team of writers, they spend literally ages speaking with developers, getting their feedback for like the interviews and stuff. We've got the writers who spend time in the products, making sure they can review them and do that effectively. I've spent a bit of time putting together the pages and also speaking with developers to try and get some traction and things on their social media and to share it. We've got a social media manager who helps to make sure that the posts are going up on Facebook in a timely way, and it's a real collaborative effort, and we want to make sure everybody on the team gets as involved as they possibly can. I mean, we've been a little bit more fortunate, I guess, in this period of time with a lot of our teammates being a little bit more at home, obviously with what's going on in the world. So they've had a little bit more time to be able to produce amazing stuff for us. But yeah, it really is a team effort, and that for me is, again, one of the reasons we want to produce this is because we do spend all year producing content 365 online for the community. So for us to have something to hold and to say, hey, we've created this, I think is a nice touch of motivation. But no, honestly, the whole team really pulled together for these type of things, and even if they haven't written a content, everyone provides us feedback. I'm sharing literally daily updates with the team and showing them the progress of different pages and kind of where we are with the sales targets and stuff, and they're always providing different ideas for us to continue pushing to really to get that even more out there. So no, it's definitely a collaborative effort and not just a single person, which is cool.
Right, and that adds a lot to it, because when it's a single person, that's only like one brain, one idea. But when it's a collective, there's multiple people sharing ideas and bringing in input, which overall brings the product to a greater standard. And one of my other questions was, how do you guys decide what content goes into the magazine? Because there's so much things being released in the flight sim community every day, and there's so many things coming up that how do you manage to decide what goes in the magazine?
With great difficulty. So it's really tough. I mean, obviously one of the key things for us was Microsoft Flight Sim. That's a huge talking point in the community. And for me, as much as I think people seem to think everybody knows everything about that sim already, I think there's been so many smaller details that have been kind of being drip fed over the last 12 months since that was announced, that some things have either been forgotten about or just completely missed. So that was one of the first things we decided upon, was to make a kind of everything you need to know is in this magazine. So you don't need to spend ages on forums or on different websites or FSElite to find that information. It's all contained within this magazine. And then I guess the other real fundamental for me and for the other guys as well was this for us was an issue to really talk about inspiring new people into flight simulation. So we're all very keen to expand and grow this industry. And again, with Microsoft really kind of hitting hard with all those previews and stuff, we're seeing a huge influx of different users and different people wanting to get involved with the community. So I know, and I'm sure you and your listeners know, that everyone needs to start somewhere. So a lot of our content in this magazine is geared around how do you get involved in flight sim? What simulators do you need to buy? What add-ons are really good? And the real fortunate thing is we're kind of supported by a really dedicated community, and a lot of that content is actually almost written by the community. So we ask regular polls, what content do you think is best, or what planes should people buy if they're brand new to flight simulation? So we're able to take all of that information and input from the community and inject it into this magazine to help other people understand just where to begin, because I think that's one of the hardest things about this community, is just that first step. So a lot of pages and a lot of content in the magazine is all about that. But that's not to say, obviously I'm sure a lot of your listeners and stuff are enthusiastic and passionate flight simmers already, so we wanted to cater to them as well. So Orbex with their True Earth series, I think, is something people want to learn a little bit more about. So that was something I really wanted to have in there. Ioan builds, they have a really interesting story, I think, from going from a freeware developer of GSX files and liveries to actually developing what looks to be a really good rendition of an A300 on X-Plane, and all sorts of other content as well. So it's quite a journey. I mean, when we started this production back in March, my list of things I wanted to include was like a mile long, but unfortunately we had to do a lot of chopping and changing and all that sort of stuff as well. And then I guess the last thing I want to say on about the content is I had a phone call maybe 2 days before the actual physical production started of creating all the pages and stuff with a unnamed hardware developer at the moment. I can't say too much more, and they wanted to talk about some new hardware. So I was like, well, we've got a magazine coming out. The product will be revealed a couple of days after the magazine is released. So we immediately kind of had to scrap something to then replace it with that. So I thought that was going to be pretty exciting for simmers to learn about, probably for the first time within the magazine as well.
Well, that's very interesting. And yeah, especially when you have developers come to you and ask you about the stuff and you offer them something like this, that definitely is like a trade between you and them, because it offers them a gateway to connect to the community easier. And it also gives you an advantage because you build a relationship with that developer. And I'm very excited to see what's upcoming. As you said, you can't say too much because
I'm afraid not.
Yeah, we're gonna have the FBI on our backs if we do. But it's very exciting. And developer interviews from like Orbex, Virtual Fly, and the Ioan builds. That stuff you can't get in many places. You really have very limited options, and FSElite is one of them. And they even have a learn to land thing with tips and tricks from a certified flight instructor, which again, you can't get that from many places. Product reviews from Aerosoft, PMDG, which this is what FSElite does. This is what they're based in. And one other question I had is, you guys are growing the team at all times, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So
That's right, yeah.
How much growth do you think FSElite is gonna get to by the end of 2020? And if there's any cap of growth, like if you say, okay, 30 people in the team, that's enough, we cut it right there.
That's a very interesting question. So I don't think we've ever said, hey, let's cap it. When we first started FSElite, we always wanted a big team. And the reason for that is we knew that news coverage happens 24/7. So we needed people from all corners of the earth. So I'm obviously in the UK. We've got people in America. We've got people in Australia, people over Europe. So the idea was that if we had people in different time zones, then we kind of started to have this 24/7 coverage. And as we grew in terms of the type of content we wanted to produce, so did the team. So we then started doing video production. So we moved away from just having a writing team, and now we've got a whole host of video producers. And the really cool thing about those guys is that they all run their own independent YouTube channels or Twitch channels, and we support one another. So we help their channels to grow. They use their channels to help FSElite grows, and it's a really nice it's a nice way for both of us to succeed in each other's success. And it's been super successful. I mean, some of the guys went from maybe 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers, and now they're over 30k in terms of subs. So we are really pleased with how we can work with all sorts of different people to produce all sorts of different content. In terms of our future growth, so we have just done a rather large recruitment session. We had over 250 applications come through, and of that we are inviting 7 of those people to come and join the team. So they are mostly writers. I think 1 or 2 of them are for the video production side of things and also our social media side of things as well. And I don't see us stopping there either, because as much as we love to cover P3D, X-Plane, and kind of we've done a little bit of coverage on DCS, and there's this Dead Stick sim coming out as well. There's mobile flight sims with Infinite Flight and X-Plane 11 mobile. So we absolutely kind of want to start covering those guys. We got Micropose, they're coming back into the scene. Obviously Microsoft Flight Simulator. So there's a whole bunch of flight sims out there which all need coverage, because we're a flight simulation website. We're not a P3D or X-Plane website. So we're absolutely always on the lookout for people. And just as I say to anyone who we interview, we're not after people in particular positions. We're just looking for the right people. And if people demonstrate the right mindset, talent and skill, then absolutely we'll send them an invite to come and join our amazing team. We're always kind of growing and doing different things, and people are growing exponentially. So it's I don't see that growth stopping anytime soon, especially when we've got all these fantastic new simulators coming out, which are all super exciting to start flying.
Right. And 2 more questions that I had, and then we can actually tie it into one, is your first magazine issue was released at the Flight Sim Expo in 2019, and it is a PDF version, so it is online. Do you have any plans to bring that to a physical copy? And then the second part of the question is, since the physical edition issue 2 was released as a digital download as well, will all of the physical copies be released as digital as well sometime in some period?
So in answer to the first part, so the first issue we actually ran out of. So we did have physical ones out at Flight Sim Expo, and then by the time I got home and like shared it with a few friends and family and stuff, I think I had about 15 copies left. So we kind of sold them very quickly. They went within literally a couple of days. So that is just PDF, just because we wanted to demonstrate to people this is kind of what we did, and just have it on kind of like an archive type of thing. Issue 2 for the PDF, we started that one after we then distributed physical ones. We sold that for I think £4 at the time. It was just a way to give it to those people who are interested in the content. And then as part of our stay-at-home sale at the beginning of the pandemic, we then just went, you know what, let's just give it to people for free, something to do for those flights, especially when people are just all at home. In terms of going forward, so anyone who does pre-order the physical edition will get a free digital copy. We haven't quite finalized the plans if we're going to do a digital version only of this magazine just yet, but definitely we will let people know as soon as we've come to a decision. And I think the challenge on that is just making sure that we can distribute it in a somewhat secure fashion without just one person downloading it and then sharing it with everybody. So there is an element of just kind of protecting our assets and stuff, but I know there's definitely a demand out there for digital stuff. We just need to make sure that we get that process right, and then we can start looking at easy ways to distribute that to the people who want to pick up a digital one.
Awesome. That sounds really great. And my final question for you would be, what do you envision for FSElite for 2020? Like, in general, what do you think FSElite will get to in 2020, and how far will FSElite reach?
Wow. Big question. So 2020 is definitely for us the year of big change and big growth. We've had a few plans in place for a little while now, and as sad as we are about all of the shows being cancelled, it has meant our scheduling has opened up quite significantly. Obviously, planning these magazines and the shows and stuff take up a colossal amount of time. So with all that new time, we're able to do some really cool stuff. So I can't really share too much about our future plans at this present time, but what I will say is we are going to do a lot more with the website, especially when it comes to focusing on not just X-Plane and Prepared, but also make it a lot more easy for people to navigate through different sims. And also we're going to do a lot more content in terms of, as I mentioned earlier, about helping new people get involved in flight simulation. And that's not just going to be written stuff, but also through video, through social media, and all sorts of other creative ways we're working very, very hard on to make sure we get just right for when things are a little bit more quietened down after we've released this almighty issue number 3.
That sounds really, really great, and I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited to see what the future holds for FSElite and for the overall sim community. And Calum, I have to thank you so much for joining me today for this interview. It was a pleasure and a lot of fun to talk about the magazine and FSElite in general. And as you guys know, FSElite is a great friend and partner of ours here at JetStream Radio, so we thank you guys a lot, and as well as the whole listeners, because you guys make it possible, even for us at JetStream and for FSElite. You guys are the reason we're all doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you to you guys as well for firstly having me and let me talk and ramble on for like 30 minutes or however long we've been talking. And also for what you guys do for the community. I've always been a huge advocate for guys like yourselves and everybody else who contributes to the community, because ultimately we're all doing this for the benefit of flight simmers across the world. So thank you for what you guys do as well.
Well, thank you so much, Calum. And if you guys want to check out the FSElite magazine, you can head over to magazine.fselite.net. Or if you just want to read your daily news and see what's going on in the flight sim community, fselite.net is the place to go. Calum, pleasure was mine. I hope you have a wonderful day, and you guys do too. This was Ioan from your 5-Star Lunch Club, and I wish you all the best.